Hi, I'm Jeff Bermudez.
And I'm Omar Kadri.
Welcome to The Collective Journey.
Join us as we explore some of the most promising talents, thought leaders, and change influencers in our city and beyond.
As we uncover these hidden gems, I hope you'll find that they're people just like you and I, with hopes and dreams and gifts that they would like to show to the world.
It is our mission to share their work, to share their story, and to appreciate what our community is capable of producing.
This is my adventure.
This is your adventure.
This is our collective journey. Welcome to another episode of The Collective Journey. I'm your host, Jeff Bermudez. Last week, we started our conversation with Chris Jackson. We learned about his passion for music, his views on art, and some of his other pastimes. Well, today, we get to do a little bit more of that. We dig in a little bit deeper and get more of his candid thoughts and opinions on certain topics. We hope you've enjoyed his conversational skills so far, because this week is our conclusion to Chris Jackson.
I have a lot of family members and they have a lot of kids and stuff, right? A common complaint that I hear is my kid is spending too much time on the PlayStation, or my kid is spending too much time playing video games.
Yeah.
Now, in contrast, if the kid was spending a lot of time playing soccer, or if the kid was spending a lot of time playing a musical instrument, it wouldn't really be as frowned upon as if they spent so much time playing games.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
What is it about the medium of video games that makes it stigmatized as more of a waste of time?
Okay, wait. Before you go deep into that, I'll just say right now that it's a very legitimate gripe.
Yes, I was literally about to say that.
It's very legitimate. You can play too much PlayStation because I know from my experience. Yeah,
it's an addiction. Yeah,
I didn't do homework. I didn't do the dishes. I didn't sleep when I should have slept. Mm-hmm. That is objectively too much PlayStation.
Yeah, I'll attack it. I'll attack this stuff. Hey, yo, back off him, okay? Let me hit him. Let me hit him.
No, I'm just wondering what you have to say.
No, I'm just kidding,
I'm sure that you have an interesting opinion about this kind of stuff.
I believe that the influence of parents is to really push them away from indoor activities like that because they want to see their kid doing things that they did, first of all, because there's this kind of juvenoia, I believe most people who have kids get, where they were raised a certain way and they saw that it worked out, and so they want their kids to be raised the same way. But in this modern world, it's hard, right? Video games are legitimately an addiction. You can become addicted to sitting down and doing this because it's just feeding your brain dopamine or whatever while you're playing it. You just keep successfully doing things, and you're getting physically high off completing little goals and stuff in the game.
You just want that epic win.
Oh, you just want that victory royale, bro. You're just looking for it like heroin. You need it. You need to scratch that itch. The problem is that you need to live a healthy lifestyle. Going outside, meeting people, talking to people, learning something new. These are all much more important goals to set for yourself. That being said, you need leisure in your life to stay sane.
Yeah.
And video games offer the perfect escape. It's...
Whoa. What do you, what you're associating escape and leisure, you know what I mean?
Well, it's an escape from your daily tasks, the things you have to do in your daily life. Mm-hmm. There comes a time where you have free time and you kind of want to escape. You want to unplug from the world. You kind of want to just be like, okay, I'm done with today. I'm going to take my shoes off, put on my fuzzy little slippers, my onesie, my Tigger onesie, and I'm going to hop on the old GameCube there with a cold beer, right? It's that's your guard given right.
But that sounds more like a reward after a hard day's work as opposed to escaping.
It can be anything you want.
It could be anything. Yeah. It's an escape in as much as your favorite Netflix show is an escape. It's just a medium.
It's a medium. Yeah, it's a form of entertainment, and you can use that entertainment whenever you see fit. The problem is don't see it fit all the time. If you're skipping classes to play Fortnite with your buds, That's okay once in a while. That's okay, you know. I skipped school a couple times in high school. I'm not doing too bad for myself. I have a successful little career going on. And, you know, if you skip school one day to play Fortnite like I did, pretend like I'm sick, Mom, I got the flu, you know, go for it, bud. I don't care. But don't do it every day. Just be laid back. It's like weed just got legalized. We should talk about that, by the way. But I don't think that everyone's going to start walking down the sidewalk with like 5 joints hanging out at all times, because there is a time and a place. You don't want to do it all the time because that is an addiction. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's nearly as addictive as other things, but I think that there is a level you can cross where I can point at someone and say, you're addicted, bro. Like every time I see you, you're like this. It's like everything in moderation, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Don't eat too many carrots, you turn orange, like that episode of Magic School Bus, right?
Well, to support your point, though, Omar, if you're playing soccer or, you know, playing the violin or the piano to the point where you're not showering, you're not talking to your siblings or your parents, that is too much soccer.
Yeah.
That is too much piano. But it's just that it's easier to get carried away with video games.
Yes.
What I meant when I was bringing up my point was more like, I feel like video games are a little bit more like targeted in that way as being a negative influence.
Yeah, no, they are definitely
as opposed to being like, you know, put into the category of things that distract you in general. Like I feel like they're more specified.
Yes.
But
you know?
it's legitimate.
Absolutely, there are, like, video gaming is an addiction. I believe that for sure.
No,
and I've gone through my phase. Like I remember when Halo 3 came out. Like, I was skipping school too.
No,
like,
and I support your viewpoint for a very specific reason, because I do think a lot of people blame things on video games that's completely unfair.
Yeah.
Like in the U.S., when they talk about like how it causes violence in kids, there's very strong research that suggests that's not a thing. It's just sort of this. It's easy to point the finger at something and call that the problem and then sweep it under the rug than it is to identify the actual problems in society, which there's millions of. It's like, it's a combination of everything. You can't just point at one thing and be like, that's what's causing violence, get rid of it. It's like, no, it's not one thing, and video games become that thing for a lot of people, I think.
Let's go back to music.
Yeah.
With the music that you're going to make, do you have any idea, first of all, the genre you said.
Yeah.
But do you have any idea of what types of emotions that you'd like to evoke? Or are you feeling certain ways that you'd like to put into your music?
Yeah, you know, I don't want to talk too much about emotional stuff. It's like, it's not really my field, but
Sure.
yeah, like there's obviously stuff going on in my life I would like to express in a more healthy way through song and stuff. And obviously I can talk more about what I intend to do and what inspired me, because I don't want to go. I can play guitar. That's a skill I have. But other than that, I'm not very instrumentally talented. I kind of struggle to make basic beats, so it's going to be one of those learning curve things, I know, because I've written maybe one song on guitar and it wasn't great, but it was a song and I can call it mine. And so I want to go for a much more ad hoc, very indie approach to things, where I was inspired by a song that Joji put out called Thome, I believe it is. Mm-hmm. And basically what he did in the song is he didn't have any instruments, so he used a piano, like a kind of slight piano, a guitar, because he had those, but for like beats, he put coins in a jar and shook it over the mic, and it had a really cool sound to it, and then dropped change on the floor to make another noise, and he made noises for his beats out of common household objects. I would like to kind of pursue something like that, like go for a very basal, very minimalistic approach to music and just kind of go from there. But we'll see what happens with that. You know, I have all this big talk about doing it, but sitting down and actually writing something is so much harder than you would believe. Like you just can't do it. You can't focus. You can't get into the right headspace all the time. You kind of have to do it when you're there, and then once you leave that headspace, you're gone. You can't do it anymore.
Okay. Well, it seems like you really like Joji.
Yeah.
Well,
he inspired me.
How did you come across his musical side? Because he was Filthy Frank before that. And what emotions do you think resonates with you that he's able to put out in his music?
Yeah. So I found him by surfing SoundCloud, and I saw an artist named Joji, and I was like, that kind of sounds cool. And it didn't have a lot of views on it, and he didn't have any description of who he was on his account or anything, but I caught it because the picture looked familiar of the person, and it's a picture, just a white background and a guy standing in an apartment, and I saw his face and I was like, hold on. And it was the guy that I always watched on YouTube, and that was his picture. And because he was releasing it under a pseudonym, he didn't want like as many people to find it. It was just kind of its own little thing off to the side. And he had 2 songs. I listened to both of them. I loved them. And I didn't really like kind of clue into the fact that they were the same, that they were one and the same, that it was the same guy. I just saw him, look familiar, thought, it looks like him. Liked it, and from then on, like, he released music over on both sides, and he never even publicly stated it was him until, like, he went into interviews and they were asking about his old character, Filthy Frank. He's like, yeah, I kind of dropped that. And then I was like, that's awesome, because he never had to say it. It's like the people who liked it found it, people who didn't like it and liked his like YouTube stuff just stayed over there, and he kept the 2 separate forever. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Omar? Do you have any artists you have a artist that you really like right now? And how did you come across them, and what is it about the emotions that they evoke that you really latch onto?
I gotta think about that for a second. Just give me a minute here.
Okay, I'll go.
yeah.
Mine would be Tyler, the Creator. I think that's been apparent for the last while. And the way that I came across him, I was basically, it was one of those nights where you drift in and out of sleep. Like you fall asleep at 11, you're just dozing off watching videos, and then you wake up at 3 a.m., fall back asleep again, wake up at 7, and then that's it, right? I happen to have my laptop on YouTube on like autoplay, and it was like around the second time in the middle of the night where I woke up, and I just heard the most soothing melody ever. It was perfect. I was
about to say, was it Yonkers?
It wasn't Yonkers. That would give me nightmares. But it was the song "Perfect," the YouTube version where the kid's playing the guitar and it's Kylie Uchis singing.
Yeah.
And I went back to sleep. I kept it on that video so that when I woke up, I'd be able to see it again. And I searched the song on like Apple Music, and I couldn't quite find that guitar solo.
So you found it pretty recently then?
Yeah, about like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and like I listened to it. It's actually perfect as like the second part of like another song before it, because it's like effing young / perfect. And I listened to it and I was like, this isn't quite the song I heard last night, but this is awesome. I was immediately hooked. And then in 2017 he had come out with Flower Boy, which really that gets me. As an album as a whole, I'd put it up there as an all-timer, because he just really talks about subject matter that a lot of people are afraid to deal with, and he deals with it, and he makes it sound so nice and kind of helps you deal with those things when you feel it.
Yeah, that's the same reason I like my artist, because his words speak to a part of you, and if it speaks to a part of you, and you know, that's just it. You're in love with that artist now.
And you're hooked.
Yeah, you're hooked.
So
That's
to answer your question about my artist, I'm very much into instrumental music.
Yeah.
I especially like scores, like things like, you know, music that complements movies or music that complements games.
That's cool.
I feel like the task that a score creator has to take on is creating music that accompanies visuals, that accompanies an experience that another artist is trying to design.
Yeah.
So like it's more of like a collaborative effort. So you know, a good example, I like Hans Zimmer. He wrote the soundtrack to Inception and to a lot of Christopher Nolan's films. In the video game realm, there's a guy named Jesper Kidd. He wrote the soundtrack to Hitman, to Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
And there's another guy, I think his name is Chris Remo. He wrote the soundtrack for Firewatch, which is a very it's a game that promotes like mental health awareness, and like the way that like the way like the music is played out, it's very emotional and very like deep, makes you like kind of feel, you know, I don't want to say negative, but it artistically represents negative feelings. So like, you know, I respect that kind of music because basically those artists had to create it according to the expectations of another artist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Two of my other favorite bands of all time, they don't sing a lot. They're two. It's really hard to describe them because they call themselves metal, but they're not. They're like jazz almost.
It goes back to the whole
What's
categorization thing.
What is their name? Because that's ridiculous.
Okay, there's two. Chon, Chon.
Yeah.
They have some crazy finger-working guitar that's just like all around, but it's just the guitar, and it gives you this emotional wave when you hear it because you feel what they're saying through their guitars. It's really insane. And then the other one's Animals as Leaders, and Tosin Abasi, which we talked about before. He's this guy who is probably one of the most gifted guitarists in the world. He's insane, but his band has two guitarists and a drum player. That's it. And they all play 8-string guitars, and they just go insane. It's unbelievable to hear them. I've seen Animals live in Toronto, and they bring that power right to the stage, and they just stare at their guitars the entire time and just walk around the stage and just shred like no one's business, and they're just having fun, and you can tell it's like some of the best stuff you'll ever hear.
I haven't been going to like a lot of concerts recently, but the last one that I went to and I was fortunate enough to go was Bruno Mars. I remember like halfway through the concert, this guy stopped his music, and he didn't like get angry, but he called the audience out, and he told them, he's like, we like, I want you to dance, but you guys are all on your phones. You know, like, how do you feel about the way that like technology and phones have like affected the atmosphere of being at a concert, as opposed to people being immersed, for example, like in like a mosh pit, or you know, like people like all like chanting or dancing in synchronicity? It's more about like capturing that moment and putting it on Snapchat, you know?
Yeah, I think it's not his place to tell you what to do at the concert.
That you paid for.
Yeah. It'd be different if it was something like a comedy set where you need engagement from the audience to gauge what's going on, how well you're doing, and punchlines need to be heard, words need to be heard. The music at a concert is very overpowering. You can hear that. And people on their phone, they're not texting. Like, if they were at a comedy show, they're probably snapping it. Which, by the way, if you send like 7 snaps in a row of a concert and I can't hear the music, don't do that. That's stupid.
Yeah.
And then you send it to me and then also put it on your story. That's the second sin. Don't do that either.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's not his place to tell people not to be on their phone at his concert because they're enjoying his music. They came to listen to him. And if he wants that sort of engagement, then he didn't have. It's hard to say. It's.
He didn't have enough stage presence.
Maybe, like, I don't want to say that because I've seen artists with lots of stage presence and they still get that.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's when I go to a concert, I do see that, but you can't let that detract from your performance. I understand he's pouring his heart out on the stage, but if that's upsetting him, then I don't know why you're stopping this show that people paid good money to see. Your fans, all the people who aren't on their phones are now experiencing this show stop, and they can't do anything about it. And you're going to call out this small group of people, or maybe large group of people who are doing this. It's like you're detracting from your performance by doing that. Yeah, there's definitely a dichotomy to the stage presence and the audience presence, and you have to play off that. But if it's just one of those things where people are experiencing the show, they're enjoying themselves, and just because they're on their phone, I think at a concert it's a lot different than other live performances in the fact that a phone doesn't necessarily detract. That's somebody taking a picture or a video or like showing that I'm here and I'm experiencing this and I love it so much that I want to share it with other people. It's not a bad thing in my mind, but I'm not saying I can't see why he would feel that way. This is music that he's made. He's
an artist.
He's an artist. He loves it, and to play for somebody and them not give 100% of their attention the entire time. Just because someone's not giving 100% of their attention the entire time does not mean they're not enjoying the show. It doesn't mean that it's your job to now call them out on that. That's just what they're doing. I mean, you kind of got to let it go. I do like that you added that he tried to pull it back a little bit, because maybe even in his mind he was like, okay, I'm crossing the line. But I have seen like videos online of artists ending shows over stuff like that, like petty things. But it's, you know.
Even Chris Cobain. It's not
Kurt
Kurt
Cobain.
Cobain.
Well,
how did I say that?
Just to add to that point as well, I don't think they appreciate him any less because they're recording him on the phone. That's how they choose to consume that experience. I'd liken it to ice cream. They're just choosing to have it in a cup instead of a cone, and it's a little bit different, but they don't love you any less. That's just the way they choose to take you in.
Yeah. Chris Pratt isn't going to come over to your house and give you a kick in the teeth if you watch it on your phone as opposed to the big screen TV, It's a different way of enjoying it. They're enjoying it in their own way, but that being said, I do see his point. They're not enjoying it to the fullest of its potential.
You seem to be somebody who finds a lot of fulfillment out of his life. Like, what advice can you give to our listeners to be able to feel that same sense of fulfillment?
Yeah, okay. So, a really important piece of my life is to not stress over little things. You can wake up every morning, turn on the news, and see something bad that's going on somewhere, and you can get really upset about it. But you can't let little things get to you. If someone's insulting you, or someone's saying something, or you see something you don't like, you really do have to start to learn to let that stuff go. Obviously, there's a point to this. Like, there's a point where you can't let something go, but for the most part, just try to live the most stress-free life you can. You only get one of them, and the more time you spend worrying about little things, the more time you're not spending worrying about yourself and being the best you can be. There's this like kind of mantra I heard once that I like to kind of think about while I'm like living my everyday life. It's actually said by a famous comedian, Norm Macdonald. He went on this, he just mentioned it once, and it was something that he obviously held very dear. But it's not about what you bring to the stage, it's about what you leave on the stage. And I think that relates directly with life. See, you can go up there and you can give a bunch of people laughs, but if you leave and it wasn't that good, they'll laugh, sure, but then they'll feel kind of disgusted afterward. They'll have this weird feeling in the pit of themselves. You want to leave the stage and you want to leave a smile on everyone's face. And the easiest way to do that is just to not be negative. Just be happy, There's no reason to get mad about things.
Do you have any regrets in life? We don't like to encourage people to live in regret, but are there things that you would have changed?
Yes, absolutely. Everyone has their regrets. But with every regret, I look back and I say to myself, in that moment, that's what you wanted. Yeah. So you kind of, a big part of life is coming to terms with your own regret and realizing that not only can you not change it, but you need to learn from that. You need to tell yourself, next time that happens, I'm not going to do that. So a big way to do it is to look back and figure out why you regret that. And I look back, and anytime I really can't coerce myself into getting over it, it's just a fact of, in that moment, what you did is what you wanted to do, and so you can't regret it, because it's just what it is.
It's definitely how you become wiser as a person, right?
Yeah, it's worked for me so far. I mean, in all my years on this earth, I haven't ever really come into a situation I couldn't overcome,
Well, unless everyone listening is tone deaf, you're a very interesting guy. If they want more of you, how can they do that? You can plug yourself, any of your social media projects that you have, if you feel comfortable.
All right. Well, you can follow me on the old Insta at Craze. That's CRAAYS, and you'll find my my little collection of pickies, little picky poos for all you kids out there. And you can like those if you want. Don't feel weird about going back and liking old ones. I won't judge you. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't really want anyone on my Snapchat or anything, so.
What about your music? Like, do you have any music that you have available?
No, I have nothing. I have no SoundCloud profile or anything as of yet.
Well, that's what he says. He's going to come out like Joji, and he's going to be like...
Well, yeah, I want to make something quality before I even worry about it. Like,
Right.
I don't want to name myself and then make music. I want the music to name what it is. I want it to have its own thing.
Okay.
I just want to give birth to it, and then whatever it sounds like, that's the name.
Hottest album of 2019?
Yeah, hottest
you heard
album.
about it first on Collective Journey.
It's gonna be called Hot Garbage, because that's what it's gonna sound like.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Collective Journey. If you or somebody you know would like to be on the show, hit us up on any of our social media. We are Collective Journey on Facebook. We are Collective Journey on YouTube. We are Collective_Journey on Instagram. And always remember, this is not just my adventure, but it's yours as well. This is our Collective Journey.